for my mind, my heart, I was so happy to see Black men standing up and taking the lead in this. The Chicago Times this week, hundreds gathered in the Loop to march in response to last weekend's downtown unrest. Chicago refuses to develop its greatest natural resource, our children, said senior pastor Charles Dates. And there you see the pastors, the Black men taking the lead, and then you see hundreds of people standing up, taken to the streets in Chicago to spread a little positivity there. Now, here are some details on this important march. Chicago city leaders are working to prevent a repeat of last weekend's chaos in the Loop. That includes a bigger police presence, barricades, and curfew for teenagers. Meanwhile, pastors from the South and West sides have organized a walk. They are hoping to paint a much different picture of young people downtown. And that is really, as I said, a really good thing to see Black men in particular stand up and take to the streets. Now, downtown Alderman Brian Hopkins weighed in on what happened last weekend in downtown Chicago, and this is what the alderman had to say. The solutions involve both the carrot and a stick. The carrot is to engage in youth programming and diversion programs and to try to get them involved in positive things. And the stick has to be you're under arrest if you break the law. And I'm not talking about just simple curfew violations. We're talking about armed robbery, gun violence, attacking bus drivers, damaging property, looting drugstores, all of those things. We can't allow that to happen. And the only way to stop it is to take people into custody when they engage in that behavior. And again, those comments are coming from Alderman Brian Hopkins as he reported to the local news. And I do understand exactly what the alderman is saying when he talks about when the situations are extreme, when this is just not a curfew violation and people get hurt and get roughed up and things get stolen. Okay, now there gotta be some consequences for that kind of behavior. Now the pastors, on the other hand, had a little different take. They coming at it, and I think both takes can be taken into consideration. And what I really do like about what the alderman said, Jackson, because he didn't just say arrest, arrest, arrest. He said carrot and a stick. And it really is rare to have an elected official, especially when something like that happens, to talk about both the carrot and the stick, and I think both are necessary. But the pastors, in their closing summation of all of this, they said the following: we wanted to come together as churches and as pastors and as people of goodwill, not to demonstrate against them, but to say, we as a church or as churches are here for you. We're going to have organizations that are walking with us, that are going to have flyers for people who are looking for jobs, foundations that we can work with, people that are hiring you for the summer. We want to be a beacon of light in our city, but also for our young people who are trying to find a way. And that's Pastor Watson Jones III of Salem Baptist Church of Chicago. Your thoughts about this, Jackson?
It's always good, and especially now, like I'm 31, old enough to really kind of understand, like my father, 72, he came up in an era where Black people really put in a lot of effort to come together and be more than, just kind of entertainment. And then to kind of see that completely switch, white flight, inner cities really being deteriorated, jobs moving to the suburbs. And then kind of the image of Black people really just being pushed as like gangsters, thugs, and everything superficial in reference of opulence to white capitalism. So really the only way to make a difference to that is for elders or anybody really who's been there, done that in some type of way to come together for leadership, because we can't always count on the government to step in. It always takes people within communities to actually give back, whether that be through tutoring, whether that be through just being there to listen to people, whether that be through helping kids reach goals in whatever ways that may be. But obviously, in addition, it's very important to enhance the opportunities and just the overall quality of living within these areas, which is what drives crime in these types of circumstances regardless. So there's just a lot of complexity to it, but the first step is to give a damn.
There it is. That is the first step. And it is a both and. I mean, I'm vibing with what the alderman had to say and the pastors. Both are correct. But when you have people knocking people over the head, stealing their stuff, because I grew up poor too. And I never had an inclination to knock anybody over the head. So at some point we got to deal with all of those things together. I like the carrot and the stick idea. But people have to be able to feel safe, and nobody has a right, as we know, you don't have a right to knock somebody upside the head and rob them and do that kind of stuff or destroy their property. I know some people say it's just property, but as a dear friend of mine reminded me, a lot of people put a lot into creating what they have. And when you think about mom and pop shops in particular, people put in that kind of sweat equity and they working all day long to create what they have. And then you take from the community too if you destroy. So it is not just property, as some people want to say, oh, it's just property, let people get away with it. No, it's not just property. They shouldn't get away with that. And when you elevate it to a certain level where you're getting physical with people, then we got to have a different conversation, Jackson. I'm one of those. We need the family barbecue. We really do have to have both of these conversations in our community. But the pastors are right for what they did. What the alderman had to say about the situation is right too. More than one thing can be true all at one time. So good on you, Chicago pastors, and I hope you stay out there. We need strong black male presence, the strong presence of black men in particular. Not saying nobody else can't go out there and be out there, but our communities really do need our stellar black men to be out there and enforce your presence, because it does make a difference in communities. And I am a black woman saying we need our black men, and I ain't ashamed to say it. We need you so very much.